Yes, good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. We are meeting again on a Thursday, 22nd of August, 2024, to discuss, read and discuss consensus, which is a philosophy and the ideology for progressive Pan-Africanists. So the three Pan-Africans there are the liberal, conservative, and the progressive. The philosophy of consensusism, which is philosophical consensusism, and the ideology, which is consensusism, is what we believe in, and believe that it's the means by which we can liberate, unite, and develop the new colonial territories, and then subsequently the entirety of Africa. So welcome. What we do is we read and then we share our thinking. So welcome, Brother Raspala. Welcome, Sister Ida. Welcome, Brother Pigeon. Brother Pigeon, just so you know, you are muted. I don't know if you are speaking to us. You are muted. So we are on the section of the book on the screen that Brother Pigeon has highlighted for us. So we shall read and then we shall proceed. Yeah. So let's read, please. I'm happy to read if that helps. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Let me start off with the reading. So it goes like this: STRIFE.
Brother Kwame?
Sorry. As I was saying, my apologies. My internet is unstable, so I might disappear and come back again. So once again, welcome everyone as I read the highlighted section on the screen. So strife and an emergent pattern, a seeming attunement, which served as a resting point until contending forces should once again become pronouncedly factious. This seesaw, this sweltering social environment gave birth in the mind of Heraclitus to the idea that the universe itself is an attunement of forces perpetually. At that moment, the idea of a finite history was killed, and that of the dialectic of history born. Thank you. So that is the paragraph I've just read, and we shall share our thinking. And let's start with Brother Pigeon, please. In the meantime, the quarantine, welcome.
Okay. Can you hear me, Brother Kwame?
Yeah, we can hear you. For those who don't know, Brother Quarantine is our resident physicist. Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
Brother Pigeon, share your thinking.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Brother Kwame. And greetings to all of you who have joined us so far. We thank you. It's a pleasure. unfortunately, I wasn't able to be fully active in the last class due to some few network issues here and there. So I couldn't pick up from the strife in the previous class, but I can get it here. That strife here, what I get, and I think what we defined last time, did we say, Brother Kwame, strife must be either violent? It's just opposition of forces.
Strife, another word for strife is tension. Another word
Yes.
for strife is conflict. Another word for strife is duality. So
Okay.
they all mean the same thing. So when we say that society is a duality, or nature is a duality, or humans are a duality. So human beings are male and female, man and woman. So even we humans are a duality. And that duality basically can be found in nature.
Okay.
And husbands and wives don't always agree, but they are one unit. They are one married couple. Yes, there may be arguments, but they are still one. Now, when there is a discussion between them, it can be heated or it can be unheated. That is all what we mean by strife. It's just the fact that nature has a duality and they are in contention. Being in contention doesn't mean violence.
Okay. What will then the word finite history mean?
Finite means that it has a beginning and an end. So when something has no beginning and no end, it is said to be infinite. However, if something has a beginning but has no end, it is also infinite. It's infinite going forward. So, for example, the positive numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, they are infinite going forward. That is from 1 to 2 to 3. There is no, we have no reason to believe that they have an end. Yeah. Similarly, if you go backwards from 0, go backwards with the negative numbers, they also go as far back as they can, and there is no end. So even if things have a beginning, they might still be infinite. So something can be infinite, meaning it has no beginning and no end, and it can still start and still be an infinity. It is believed, it's our position that the universe, as our position, and the universe can be seen as the numbers, both negative and positive. So the integers. So from as far back as you can go in the negative numbers, all through 0 to the positive numbers. And that is how our universe is. In other words, our position is that our universe has no beginning and no end. That we have no reason to think that just because things inside the universe begin and end, then we should extrapolate that thinking to the universe itself. So finite means, in this sense, means has a beginning and has an end. So similarly, finite can mean that it has no beginning if you go backwards, but it has an end. I don't know if that makes sense. So the negative numbers have no beginning, if you understand what I mean. Negative infinity, but then as you come towards 0, it has an end, and it ends when you get to 0. So negative numbers are infinite backwards, but not infinite forwards.
Okay. So then permit me now to share my thinking here, because I'm seeing from what I can read from this small paragraph is the aspect of attunement, which is harmony, to what I understand, existing in harmony out of a strife. So I'm seeing two things here. There's harmony in one side and there's a strife in the other side. And I'm trying to get the last word, which says that then our universe is an attunement of forces perpetually in strife.
Yeah, let me help you with the word attunement.
Yes.
There was an African, shall we say, politician, philosopher, learned person, however you want to see him, called Dr. Agre. Dr. Agre was one of the founders of the what is today is called Achimota College, where in Nkrumah trained. And Dr. Agre, I believe, was also Kwejiri Agre, was also one of the people who inspired Nnamdi Azikiwe of Nigeria. Now, the way he looked at it was that see the universe like it is a piano. Now, a piano has black keys and it has white keys. When you play the black keys alone, you cannot get a tune. You get a sound, but the sound will not be in tune. If you play the white keys by themselves, again, you get a sound, but you don't get a key. But if you play the black and white keys together, then you get a tune. Now, it is possible to play both black and white keys, but they will not be in attunement. Yeah, it's possible that they will be out of tune. But if you know how to play the piano, then you can be in a position to play the black and white keys together, and what we have is a beautiful tune. So see attunement as sound, yeah, or the vibration of something, vibration. So when, for example, young people are making noise that they don't like what is going on in the country, that is a sound. They are making a sound, okay? But that sound is contending with another sound coming from the parliament that passes a finance act. Or the president is doing something that is illegal or illegitimate. Parliament is saying, don't do that. And the president is saying, well, I will do what I want to do. So there is a strife there. No, attunement is when there's a compromise, they all agree, they sort out their differences, and then there is peace. So attunement is a kind of peace, if you
Okay.
like.
Okay. I'll just be very brief with my thinking here and then. Previously we read somewhere that instability brings transformation. And then we come here where we find instability or rather cohesion or tension in name of strife, and then resort to an attunement.
Yeah.
And then
stability, can I explain? So stability is transformation in the sense that when the two forces are opposed and then they sort out their differences, or they work together, or they are in tune, it brings stability. Now that stability or peace is a transformation. In Marxism, if you recall, it's called thesis, which is a state of affairs, antithesis, which is a contradiction, that which is opposing the thesis, and then out of that comes the synthesis. So you have the Finance Act or the Finance Bill by Ruto, that is a thesis. The antithesis is the youth, the Jersey say, no, we don't want this. No, stop. And then out of that, thesis and antithesis should come a synthesis. I hope that helps.
Okay. So this is very, very interesting. That people will always tend to want peace. But they don't know that sometimes for us to attain the peace, as you're saying, it must come from a strife. And sometimes when it's strife or have differences or tension, people tend to label it as wrong, not good, something bad. Why should we have tension and differences in a society? While people also aspire peace, but peace to me, I find it as a product of a strife, which then can result to what you call an attunement based on this text here. And then that's very clear that for us to have what now the last part says that the dialectic of history was born. For a house to have actually the electrical and the dialectics forces or differences coming in the process of divergence, which I think we discussed some times back, the divergence and convergence, then it's very clear that we cannot sometimes avoid strife. And this strife, in this sense, people might find it in different ways. People might call it violence or anything else. But the
Hold on.
opposition of ideas in a society.
But Pigeon, hold on. When you say you can't avoid strife, then you are saying that it is not there, then it comes. Strife is always there. It's not something that today is not there, then tomorrow you see it. It is there, but sometimes it's very visible, sometimes it's not visible. It's like when you see a river and it's calm on the surface, and yet underneath the river, fish may be fighting for food, but you can't see it on the surface. But when you go down, you see it. So it's not that strife is not there, and then suddenly it appears. The strife here should be understood as tension, the conflict, the duality that is inherent in everything, just like the protons that are positively charged, the electrons that are negatively charged, and they constitute the atom. And the atom is at peace, but within it are these forces that are opposed. It is always there. So that is what strife is.
Yeah, I want to end up by giving this, linking this to this highlight that I'm putting here. When you're saying that, of course, objects are deceptively serene, they are all
Precisely.
delicate balances of opposing forces.
Forces, yes.
And basically, this is where you're coming from, that yes, as much as a society might be peaceful, or as much as we might have peace, it doesn't mean that internally or below it there is no tensions or opposing forces. And I link it back again to that previous paragraph that I'm highlighting here, that this opposition of forces is conceived by Arista as the fundamental, that without it, everything will pass away. And you see, now I go back here, let's treat now peace as an object here. And that peace must come out of the process of this tension. And I think people also fear tension. I think that is what brought issues sometimes back. That this strife should be seen as even opposing ideologies, opposing thinking, or opposing minds in a society. And those opposition might not always be violent. They might be just disagreeing in terms of ideas or thinking or philosophy. But in that disagreement, then we can actually have a convergence and then lead us to what you call an attunement, which in this case is harmony out of convergence. And this then become actually the basis of a society to exist. And that's why I think when I link it also to some previous cards, they say that the society is in constant revolution. The revolution might be seen as strife within the society that is taking on constantly. But this actually led to some level of an attunement. So maybe in what I'm thinking, and I think that's why they say that in other paragraph also they either try to link this strife to something like an instability. But they say that out of that instability then comes transformation, probably that can be seen as a development. So I believe that then out of strife then comes what you call development in a societal peace. But I want to get an understanding of the last line sentence that says that from that moment the idea of finite history was killed and of the dialectic of history born. Probably if you can elaborate on that. Does it mean that previously in the history there was no tension?
Yeah, that is this is understanding how it was understood. Is that clear?
Okay.
It's how they understood history. So history can be understood in different ways. So for idealists, they see history as a hierarchy, that there has always been a hierarchy. However far back you go, there was a hierarchy. At the top of the hierarchy was a divine being. Call that person whatever you like, God, Allah, whatever you like. Yeah, Mau, however you call it. And then there's that hierarchy, and then they believe then there were another set of beings that are not human, and then all the way down to some believe to another category of entity called dwarfs. So some people believe that there is this hierarchy, and that's how it's always been. It's always been like that. That hierarchy has always been there. So in other words, history is not does not have strife in it. Yeah, there is a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy, and that hierarchy has always been like that. And so when people are agitating and so on, they are trying to go against the natural order. So when you have a society, you have the priesthood, you have the landowners, the landed aristocracy, you have the priesthood who intercede on behalf of God, and the landowners, the landed aristocracy, in also that the workers, the laborers, some of them slaves, can do their work. That order, that there is God, then there are the priests, then there are the landed aristocracy, and then there are ordinary workers. Some see it as that is how it's always been. So it's easy to begin to view society as static. Okay, if you look around today and then you ask the question, do we have the best kind of society that we have? Some people will argue that the capitalist system we have today is the best we can have. There's nothing better than a capitalist society. That a post-capitalist society, which some have conceived as socialism or communism, is an anathema. It's not good. We shouldn't go there. It's bad. It's bad for us. So some people have made it their job to kill it wherever they see it. So when they see an Allende in office in Chile, they have to go and destroy it. When they see an
Okay, Brother Kwame, we are losing you. So probably let's get to the next person. I've shared my thinking. Let me get to Brother Carrington. Can you share your thinking as you move to then Sister Ida, then Sister Mara? Brother Carrington?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. It is a short but very interesting paragraph, and the things I was able to pull out of this paragraph that I found interesting is this idea of attunement and a resting point. There's this very interesting concept in physics called metastability. Metastability is defined in opposition to stability. Not really in opposition, but a special kind of stability where the net forces acting on a system are zero, but the forces themselves are not zero. So think of it something like a balance of forces. So there are positive forces and there are negative forces, and then the sum of these forces is zero from high school physics. This metastability can be disturbed, and that's why it's called a metastability. Just by a very slight change in the state of the system can lead to very wild variations in later on states of the system. So I found that very interesting that Heraclitus was able to intuit this from his philosophical studies of societies. Now, the concept of finite history is also very interesting for me. I would guess that the point Heraclitus is trying to make here is not that there was a time before history, what we like to call prehistory, where there was a Garden of Eden, there was a certain paradise, a certain primordial paradise where people were happy, contented, lived in harmony with the nature and with themselves internally and in societies. And then all of a sudden, history began. Adam was chased out of the Garden of Eden with the wife. And now the forces of negativity and positivity, evil and good, started operating on societies such that they can never be in flux. They can never be in complete rest. They have to be in flux. And this then gives you the idea, as Brother Christian was talking about, that there is also the possibility of working towards a perfect state of society, a state of society that is in its highest form, which again will be a form of the end of history. I don't know if some people have come across that idea, that history was about to end. Kiyosaki wrote about this in the 1990s. So what this paragraph basically tells you is these notions of history being born and history dying are incorrect, and it has proven so. The end of history was the idea that Western liberalism had solved history, that all you needed to do was implement these ideas of how to organize society according to Western liberalism, and you will basically achieve global peace. This was the proposal or the proposition of liberalism, Western liberalism, after the collapse of the Soviet Union. This has proven not to be the case. History is always stubborn. History rolls on. And why does history roll on? Why has history proven to be immortal? These ideas of struggle, these ideas of liberation, these ideas of empowerment. Why have they refused to die? They have refused to die, again, because these forces are always operating in society. So these forces are operating in society in opposition to each other, hence the dialectic, i.e. the dialectic will never die. And because the dialectic will never die, this idea of forces operating against in each other, as Brother Pigeon has mentioned, intention, the dialectic will never die, and therefore history will never die. And therefore societies will never, by definition, be static. A static society is a collapsed society. The Roman Empire is a static society because it died. But societies that are alive must keep on these forms of struggle. It is a condition rather than an inconvenience. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very interesting. Those will be having questions to Brother Carrington can come in at this particular moment. Maybe if you feel there's something you need him to expound on or what you want to catch up with him, because this is a conversation anyway. Let's get to Sister Ida. Sister Ida?
Well, I think that Brother Carrington should hurry up and write all his papers so that he can become Professor Carrington, because he comes up with such ideas that you think, wow, where did he see that? And listen to that and all the rest, because I don't know, I just find it very interesting. I was searching for somewhere to start and stop. And I think I started with the last sentence, that the final oh, it's a wish, Brother Carrington. That the final from the moment that the idea of final history was killed, and that the dialectic and that of the dialectic of history is born. So to me, it started telling me or speaking to me about the fact that what did it start speaking to me about? The fact that history starts out as something, I think. We might not always know past history, but for us, for a lot of people, present history comes out of strife. And quite often, if they haven't heard of bits and pieces of past history, they just see the last few years of their history of history, because they see change happening. So I really wish I could expand more and tell you all sorts of things. It was a short passage, and I've listened to everything you've all said, and I've thought, wow, wow, wow. But I can't go as deep as the rest of you have managed to go. So thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Welcome back. Brother Kwame.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, thank you. As I said, yeah, I told you my system is unstable, so I've had to restart everything again. Yeah.
So please proceed, Brother Class, share his thinking. And
Yeah,
Sister.
sorry, I missed what everyone said.
Oh, you'll have to go back when it's uploaded, because Brother Carrington gave us a real wow. Really? Oh, interesting. Yeah. So rewatch.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Okay, Brother Kwame, you can continue the sharing. Maybe we go to Sister Myra.
Okay, thank you. Well, if I do go off again, please just take over as normal.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, yeah, brother, sister, Brother Carrington, I missed you. I told your contribution was wowing. Can you summarize it so that I have the benefit as well?
Brother Kwame, you just have to watch the recording. It was good.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm happy to watch it again. If you can just summarize so that I'm with the flow like everybody else.
Yeah. Thank you very much again, Sister Ida. I think Sister Ida should just help me with getting my hype up, because when Sister Ida speaks about the way I talk, I also am surprised with myself. So thank you very much, Sister Ida. Thank you for the encouragement. I'll try my best not to fail conscientism and use whatever skills I have to the best of our ability. I was focusing on two things that I found very interesting. This idea of attunement of opposing forces, it reminded in me something in physics and possibly in mathematics of metastability. This idea that you have a stability, a special kind of stability that emerges from the coherence of opposite forces, sort of. So you have -5 newtons and +3 newtons and +2 newtons, and the net forces acting on that system are 0. So this metastability. And when metastability is disturbed, usually in complex systems, it results in a state of society that is wildly different, or a state of system that is wildly different than the one which came before. That is a revolution. So, and then I also focused on this idea of finite history, this history that has a birthplace and a deathbed. There has been a group of Western thinkers called the liberalists, who announced the end of history when the Soviet Union collapsed. Kiyosaki.
Fukuyama.
Fukuyama, not Kiyosaki. Yes, Fukuyama, Francis Fukuyama.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for correcting me. Yes.
Okay.
Fukuyama announced the end of history, that Western liberalism had essentially solved history. Once you implement this algorithm, your society will rise and everything will be fine. And if everybody in the world implements this algorithm of Western liberalism, there will be global peace. This was the proposition. And that it had proven itself by the collapse of the alternative system, the Soviet Union. Now, 30 years later, it has become very, very clear that history is very difficult to kill. Almost impossible to kill. And because we should use that idea that history is very difficult to kill to conclude also that history is very difficult to give birth to. And this leads us to the conclusion that history is immortal. History is infinite. And that tells us something, that the opposition of societal forces, these are essentially the forces which generate history, have always been in operation. And therefore, this is a condition rather than an inconvenience, that society is looking for some perfect paradise, some perfect system, so that it settles. Such a system does not exist. History cannot die. Yes.
It's interesting that sometimes people think that which is abstract is higher or better than that which is concrete. And people don't understand that the abstract is actually less or not as good than the concrete. And that when you rise, and that when you are moving from concrete to abstract, you are not rising, you're actually falling.
Yes.
So people sometimes,
There's something, sorry to
yeah, it's
interject,
okay. Yeah,
something
it's fine.
my physics lecturer used to say, that abstraction is generalization and generalization is approximation. Never forget that. Yeah.
Precisely. And
Yeah.
it can never be the real thing.
Yes,
And
exactly.
the real thing is life.
Yes.
However we see it, however imperfect, however bad, however good we see it, that concrete is the reality. And so on. So anyway, thank you. Going back to the model you used in terms of the atom, the 5 and 3. Can you go over that again?
Yes, it's actually, it even applies to something like, let's say, a seesaw. Let's use the example. So maybe let's say somebody of 60 kilograms is seated on this side and somebody of 50 kilograms is seated on this side. There's an imbalance until they reach a certain distance from the seat. At this point, there's a balance of opposing forces. This one is trying to pull this seesaw to the other side, and this one is trying to pull the seesaw to the other side. But this balance is what is called metastability. And even if that guy just moves a meter forward or back, they disturb that system entirely, and it ends up in a different state compared to the previous system. Yes. So when certain forces that are in operation in society, for example, in Kenya and in most of Africa anyway, the force of youth unemployment is currently in operation, and it is only growing day by day. This force is going to cause a change of state in Africa. Yes, something like that, because it's causing an imbalance. Yes.
It definitely will. And in terms of the seesaw, was it Archimedes who said, give me somewhere to stand and I can lift up the earth?
Yes, it was Archimedes. Yeah.
Archimedes, yeah.
Brilliant and arrogant.
Yeah, thank you. So just so we all remember, so Brother Carrington is our physicist, our resident physicist. So thank you very much. So but the reason I asked you for that model is to apply it to society in terms of the presidency, the judiciary, and the parliament. So the executive
yes.
branch, yeah, that's why I wanted you to use that. So we can see how the seesaw can be seen in terms of society, how we are governing society,
Yes.
how there can be a difference between the executive and parliament. And then someone said, well, let's take it to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is then adjudicate to bring a balance.
Yes.
So that's why
yes, Brother Christian, thank you very much. I have been trying to understand the Kenyan situation, Nigeria too, in terms of exactly this problem. And just 2 minutes, and then I'll keep quiet.
It's fine.
Yeah. So basically, the Constitution of Kenya tries to decentralize power because we have had a bad history with dictators. So it gives power to the political class, and even within the political class, it distributes power. It distributes power within the judicial system and within the executive and the parliament. And the Constitution also envisages other forms of power, like social power vested in the elders and the church and the mosques, and economic power vested in the private sector. Now, there is a problem in the country where a lot of power is slowly being concentrated back, economic because of corruption, and social because the political class is trying to buy these churches and mosques, is being concentrated back to the political class. And to me, to my mind, this is causing an imbalance in society because a lot of power is concentrated on one node of the network.
Too much power. Too much
And
power.
these people do not know what to do with this power. So they mishandle it. And this is what we call this opulence and showing off and etc. While we have spoken about the force of the youth, the force, the demographic force, the demographic power of the youth who are leaving our schools. For example, last year, Brother Pigeon might correct me, 700,000 young people left our high school in just 1 year. So, and this year there will be another 700 or 800,000.
There are no jobs.
Yes, exactly. This imbalance of forces, the concentration of power, it's like two people going to sit on one side of the seesaw. That seesaw will violently fall down because there is an imbalance. This disagreement, this concentration, this imbalance of forces is what is leading to the problems or the state of conflict and tension that we are seeing right now. I'm trying to articulate it nicely. So I'll try write about it so that I can
That's
think
fine.
about it carefully.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
So the solution would be to
right.
deconcentrate this power.
If we use a model, if we keep the same model in mind, Brother Pigeon, the STRIFE, the STRIFE, everybody else, and then we are saying that on one side, if you like, is Parliament, on the other side is the executive, and the one that is supposed to bring the balance is the judiciary. The judiciary is supposed to make sure that they are balanced. So, so the Parliament is supposed to hold the executive to account. But if there is a tension that can cause any problems, the judiciary is there, and then they go to the Supreme Court, the High Court, Higher Court, and then they sort it out. Normally with courts, in fact, some have the Constitutional Court. The problem now is that the court itself is politicized. So the members of the Supreme Court or the Constitutional Court are appointed by the executive. And so they feel that they have the allegiance to the executive. And so they are not able to bring the balance and so on. Anyway, thank you very much. Sister Myra. Sister Myra.
I'm just catching up.
If
I can comment on what you've just said about
hold on. Brother Pigeon, where is the page? Or is it just me that can't see it?
It seems to be off.
Brother Pigeon?
Maybe he's fallen off. Let me see.
No, he's not there. He's here. Yeah, Brother Pigeon, share the page. Sister Myra, yes, you can, of course, do that.
So you're saying that the different arms of government can balance out the forces, but there are some governments where all the arms are enforced by one person.
Yeah.
Or one group.
Samara, are you there?
So then
I was suggesting, Sister Samara, I was suggesting that. I was suggesting that. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So no, I was suggesting that one way to understand the balance of forces, building on what Brother Carrington said, was that the executive and the judicial and the legislature. So they make the laws and the executive execute. So in fact, Parliament is supposed to be where policy is crafted and passed as law, and then the executive only what? Execute it. But you have the executive making policy. You have the executive trying to make law, and then they force it through Parliament. And they don't want Parliament to even have it. And then they order they whip their members, or they order them. I mean, in Ghana and other parts of the world, it's worse. They just order you to vote, no questions. And I was suggesting that when these things are happening, there is a conflict. There's always conflict, but when the conflict becomes visible and threatens stability in society, the one that is supposed to bring peace or stability or balance of forces is the judiciary. The judiciary, that is their job. Their job is to make sure that there's always a balance. But they are worse now because they have been the judiciary is filled with political appointees, so they can't do their job because they feel they want an allegiance to the one who appointed them, and in some cases, who appointed them, the president. So that's what I was suggesting. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to load it.
And has it worked?
Telling me sharing is loading. So I'm wondering why it's taking long. Let me try with the last one.
Yeah, your sound is not also very good. I think you're having challenges.
I'm a bit far. I'm a bit far. Let me try again to load. They can't share that thing. Let me try to log in.
Yeah. So Samara, continue your contribution. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the situation that you explained there in Ghana is exactly the situation in many countries in Africa. So can we then say that if we use Brother Carrington's seesaw, that it's tilted, it's not even tilted, it's straight, it's facing up into the air, because all the power is vested in one tiny group and everyone else is just there at their mercy. So that the forces are extremely, extremely out of balance.
Seriously out of balance. Yeah, go on, carry on. Yeah, Brother Pigeon, I think Brother Pigeon is sharing the page. Okay, I was going to look for it. Okay, yeah, Sister Maida, finish what you were saying and then let's continue.
I even have nothing to add, because that's the way things are, sadly. Everything is just, the forces are so tilted to just one tiny group, and the rest of us are just swimming around trying to survive.
According to capitalism, that is the best kind of society you can have, when power is in the hands of a few. They are called capitalists.
Yes, because then the colonialists can come in and control with the tilters.
Yes, the capitalists are the imperialists. So when they cross borders, they become the imperialists. Yes, right. Has everyone shared, Brother Pigeon? Because I missed.
No, it's Aidan, Brother Carrington. You can proceed to the rest.
Okay, thank you. Sister Shireen? Actually, Sister Shireen, can you hold on? Let's hear a brother, and then you can come in after that. Russ. Brother Sam, I'll come to you in a moment. Comrade Russ Palan.
I give thanks, my elder.
Hello, my elder. Yes, please, what do you think?
Hey. Yeah, no, I agree with everything that's been said so far. And also with the text that we've read, the one that's highlighted. Yeah. Also reminds me of the history I'm reading about our ancients. They also had some sort of a bit of a conflict when they created the humans. So one of the brothers didn't like the idea of creating humans, and the other one wanted the idea to create humans because one of our ancients who were first mining the gold before the creation of the humans started to revolt because of the heavy load of mining gold. So the idea was to create humans to be slaves for the ancients. So one of the ancients, they didn't like that idea, and so there was a strife between these two families. So I'm just making an example of this story that, yeah, these things really do exist, even in our history as the man in this world. Thank you.
No, Brother Russ, you are spot on. And in fact, in African philosophy, what we are discussing is dialectics. And this dialectics is part of our philosophical outlook as Africans. And I think we've mentioned here before that there is a proverb about a crocodile that has one stomach and two mouths. It has one stomach, and yet they are fighting as who should eat the food. But actually, they only have one stomach. So the food is all going to the same space, and yet they are fighting as to who should eat the food. And that kind of underpins dialectics. So that philosophical outlook is fundamental to the African worldview. So thank you for reminding us that if you go back into our history. So for those of you who didn't quite get what Brother Ras was saying, he's saying that the Dogon people believe that we arrived on this planet from a different planet. Is this serious, brother? Yeah, this serious, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's where we came from. Our ancestors came from there, and that the strife we are talking about was part of that, and that the creation of man was part of that strife, that it led to strife. For those of you who read the Bible, you notice that it says in Genesis, it said, "Let us make man." Let us. So that means there was more than one person there. Yeah. So for those of you who are into the Bible and read the Bible, very, very meticulously, you'll notice that. Anyway, thank you, Brother Ras. Sister Shireen, and I'll come to Brother Sam. Sister Shireen, let's hear the woman's voice. Sister Shireen.
Greetings, everybody. Greetings.
Greetings. Always a pleasure to have you with us, Sister Shireen.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. I always try my best because the group is amazing.
I know.
And it's such a a blessing to have.
Refreshing, yes.
Yeah, refreshing to have brothers and sisters across the world in this one space with different perspectives. I'm going to keep my
ideas.
Yes, exactly, and sharing ideas. I'm just going to keep it very brief. And the brother sister Ida was referring to, and then he came back on again.
Yeah, Brother Carrington, our physicist.
Yeah, Brother Carrington, amazing as always. Intellect and delivery. But for me, it's just always.
So Shireen, before you continue, so you can see when you listen to Brother Carrington's contribution, then you can see how if our physicists, most of whom are asleep, that's our physicists, the African physicists, if they really engaged with the political economy and brought their mind to solving our problem, can you see where we would be as Africans?
Of course.
And so when we are listening to Brother Carrington, we are seeing an example of what should be and the kind of philosophy that is meant to be driving us as Africans. In fact, listen to Brother Carrington, you can see that our philosophy, here consensusism, is rooted in a philosophical and a scientific worldview. And that being the case, when we are implementing policy, we can't be wrong because our policies will be based on scientific laws.
Indeed.
So interesting. Yeah, carry on, Sister Shireen. I just thought I will interject.
Yeah, and also the fact that sometimes when we feel like we're on a unified trajectory, sometimes it's a group of people with the same reasoning that can create a lot of power. And then as time goes on, if that fails to maintain itself, there's a lot of disarray and a lot of confusion, which a lot of us are experiencing today. Sorry, I just
but Sister Shireen, bear in mind that when that same group are also too unified, it leads to something called groupthink.
Yeah.
And groupthink can also be very dangerous because then people cannot see something different. And they all sing the same song.
Yeah.
And sometimes that also can be dangerous, which is why here we ask everyone to share their thinking. If you disagree with anything, say so. Share it with us. We have no problem with it, because we don't want groups. And as much as we take a certain philosophical position, which is that all humans are equal, you know, that we all come from the same matter, of course we all think differently. And that is fine. That is fine. Yeah. So we also want to avoid groupthink. And as much as we want all to think the same, to think in the same direction, so there is stability and progress. At the same time, we want to avoid groupthink.
Indeed. Indeed. So this passage talks about strife and imbalance and a constant change that isn't always peaceful. Obviously, if we look at the UK today, for example, in some way they've kind of put cotton wool around this island, and they've kind of implemented a lot of distractions to make us feel as though we are safe here. For example, this is where it's a very, if you look at global news every day, it's a very turbulent, dangerous place to be on this planet at the moment, or what it's continuous. I won't say at the moment, but it's a very dangerous and turbulent place. And I think Heraclitus,
Heraclitus, yes.
Yeah, refers to, like, even without man's intervention, the universe is still doing the forces of the universe is still at play, and the universe is constantly evolving, changing, because we are part of a bigger of more, should I say. And in this instance, as I said, even if it is just where man doesn't exist on Earth, the universe is still at play doing what it does in terms of its turbulence and its movement. So there isn't just one. If we look at the last line, which says, from the moment the idea of finite history was killed, and that of the dialectic of history born, would that be where man has tried to put a stamp on historical events, but we cannot look at an isolated event, because there are several million other events happening all at the same time with a different narrative to it, which in some way or other displays turbulence, because we're not just all singing from one hymn sheet. And where Brother Kwame spoke about the groupthink type of a reasoning, it's that same thing as well. We're all here today. We've all listened to or read the same passage, but we all have a different understanding of what this passage means, and that in itself is an imbalance. It's just trying to at least get some sort of a balance and understanding of where we are all at. I hope that makes sense.
Very much. Very much. Have you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I've kind of asked you the questions already, which you've responded to. So thank you. Brother Sam.
Yes, evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, I come
Brother Sam, before
Hello?
before you continue, quick question. The border policy, the migration policy. Yeah, you need to unmute yourself. You're muted. The migration policy. Yeah. Did we complete it? Did we complete the migration policy document?
It was. I don't call it complete, but yes, there was some inputs that were made that were sent to me. Yes.
Okay, so you're happy with them. You don't want any more.
we will never conclude that aspect, because we have just what we are reading here tells us things are constantly changing, and adaptation must continuously be there. So the input will always be welcome, especially when new situations develop. Yes.
Excellent. All right, carry on, sir.
Yes, thanks. I think I'm coming at the end tail where so many views have been shared. But for me, I just found the confirmation that we already expressed last week, that things are constantly in movement, and there's always this opposite sides that are in contradiction or in strife against each other to bring any development. And if I take our own situation in the political arena, you know, to prove these things in a state of war or friction or struggle, especially for the liberation struggles, there used to be a state where leaders who were leading the struggle being arrested, some of them even killed summarily. But to prove that it is not instigators that make things to change and to happen, the struggle kept on continuing. And this proves that things are not static, things are always in momentum. So I think this, for me, captures this. But I also see the seesaw very well now. The seesaw in South African politics. You know, somebody analyzed the situation now so brilliantly for us. He says the ANC, former ruling party or still ruling party, lost the elections. The last election, they only garnered 39.7% of the death thing, of the polls. But brilliantly, through negotiations or through whatever, they have managed to remain in power. And they are still controlling major state apparatus in South Africa, despite that they have actually lost the. And for me, it's where I want to say this part also tells us that, or teaches us that in everything that is moving, there are stages, there are times for this and that. And if we don't take stock of those things, we might lose ourselves and lose actually the objective that we are gunning for. And in this case, in the South African situation, it means the imperialists have gone a step higher. The ANC that in 1959, the Pan-Africanist Congress split from the ANC, saying, you are no longer with the liberation movement. Today, as we speak, this is the seesaw that I'm talking about. The Pan-Africanists have joined into government with the ANC that, as far back as 1959, were said they are no longer within the ranks of the liberation movement. So what has the imperialists done? They have managed to bring that factiousness or dissension into the liberation movement. And now the forces of liberation are in disarray. Take the EFF, Floyd Shibambu, the main man next to Malema, has now suddenly left the EFF, gone and joined President Zuma. If you go back into the South African parliamentary debates and see how Floyd Shibambu was so critical about President Zuma, criticizing him about selling the country to the highest bidders, but today they were shaking hands in front of everybody internationally, saying, this is a good politician, this is the best leader. And this is the seesaw, this is the crisis that continues within even ourselves as individuals. Thank you.
Sam, Don't go. So
Hello.
do you think that money change hands?
Sorry?
Do you think money change hands?
You can't write that one off at all. Floyd Chibambo says, no, let me put it properly. You know, Malema is seen by many of us as a dictator himself. And whether he says no, we know that practically that's what is happening. Floyd Chibambo knows that Malema has done everything to block him ascending. He wanted to challenge Malema. So Malema made sure that he has already put the blocks on that. So he knows that the elective Congress that is coming in December, Floyd will not be any factor there. So the easy way out is going to join MK party. But you cannot write off the issue of what attracted him there. He's currently given the post of national organizer of the MK party. So yes, you cannot write off that aspect of money. If you take my own leaders in the Pan-Africanist Congress, what makes them to go and join the government of national, or the so-called government of national unity, when the ANC that was in power has lost power? The situation for all revolutionaries should say all revolutionary parties must now club together what President Zuma is now preaching. But we know that President Zuma was in power for two terms, and he has been the member of the ANC, and he has never done all this unity that he is talking about. But the Pan-Africanist Congress leaders to be joining the ANC that has lost power, this tells us money could have changed hands. Thank you.
And the other question I want to ask you, Sam, is still on the question of strife. What does the Constitution say? Because in Ghana, there is no such thing as government of national unity, because the Constitution says that you must have 51% to be the governing party. What is the situation in South Africa?
Well, in South Africa, you can have this government of national unity, and it is something, you know, to be a government of national unity, it must be an agreement between all the parties. In our first election in '94, we had something like that. The former apartheid leaders, the Nationalist Party, became part of that government of national unity. Now, in this situation where somebody has lost power, I think this is where you can read this thing of money having played its role. The political parties could have already went outside, even forced the ANC to become a minority government and be the big opposition, but they opted to be part of the so-called government of national. It is not a government of national unity, because the ANC started talking to the Democratic Alliance, and they together went into that alliance, and they brought in the IFP and now all other smaller parties. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. So let's hear from a sister this time. I'll put the book up on the screen in a moment. Let's hear from Sister Marlene, please. Brother Glenroy, welcome. Sister Marlene.
Yes, I was having some trouble joining. I have read the passage, but nothing to say at the moment. But as you see, I was late. I'm not sure if it's I have to log on for this program, and for some reason I was being diverted. I'll tell you about it another time. But no, for the time being, I'll just listen.
Sorry, I missed the reading. I'm not long come on, so I'll listen to the next part.
Yeah. Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it on the screen now?
I'm seeing you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm seeing it now.
Yeah. Okay, so you can read it whilst we go on. So
which part are you reading from?
The
Is it
the
strike?
highlighted.
Oh,
When you
the
see the high,
highlighted part.
the highlighted, the yellow, yeah, that's what we've read. Very short, and we've been discussing it. Okay, so I'll come back to Sister Marlin once you feel you are able to share your thinking.
All right. Thank you.
Let's hear from Sister Chizomo. Thank you. Sister Chizomo,
Hello.
what do you think? Maybe I should call you Sister Grace.
Strife and atonement, obviously.
Yeah, what
Can
do
you
you
hear
think?
me?
Yes,
Can you
I
hear me?
can. Now,
Yeah.
yes, we can. Interestingly, Sister Grace, you used I heard the word atonement. Interesting. Attunement and atonement will mean the same thing, where atonement is being one with God.
Right. Okay.
Interesting. Anyway, yeah.
So anyway, the strife
Yeah, carry on.
is an ongoing thing. As people try to correct themselves or develop other policies or other ways of doing things, and obviously conflicting, especially with political parties, then they conflict and they amend themselves and they reform and all sorts. So in Malawi, we talked about the separation of powers between the judiciary, the executive, and the legislators. But I think there's also the fourth arm of the people themselves, like we're seeing in Kenya. That is also speaking out against the other three, and therefore, but mainly, as you say, the separation of power is not working because these three keep colluding. The other three keep colluding, especially the executive and the judiciary. And in fact, the power, for example, in my country, the power seems to be more with the judiciary. The executive will always run to the judiciary for this and that. They present things, the judiciary will quickly make the law, and bang, the executive will implement it. They keep skipping the parliament. Not sure if people actually understand their own processes and the systems and what they're meant to be doing. So they just follow those they think in the know-how, which is the judiciary that presents as the most knowledgeable people among the three. So they all just say, yes, sir, 3 bags full. And whatever the judiciary says happens. But obviously the judiciary itself is getting a bad name. So recently they've been dismissing cases which they never did before. I don't know why they've changed their stance, but they keep dismissing cases that are being brought that are being brought in courts and things like that. So whether they know that things are about to change, I don't know. And then things are just happening at a very, very, very fast pace. With all these coalitions, the 50+1 thing, because we never used 50+1 until they wanted to do, they used it for the rerun in order to get rid of the other guy, which they did when they went into what they called an alliance. It wasn't even a coalition, but an alliance that was formed immediately before the elections. It's not like in South Africa where they did it after. So ANC gets the more votes than everybody else, but not enough to do 50+1. Then they bring everybody else to get the 50+1. So ours did it before, and then put 2 people only on the ballot to make the other guy win, although he had less votes than the guy he was opposing. So that then happens, but because there were two people on the ballot, once they got into power, the alliance did not work because they were not on the ballot. There was no legal agreement. There was no, the whole thing was just a mess. So the agreement became between the two people. And now we've lost the second one. So all of a sudden, alliances are also forming the opposite direction. Because since then, people have now understood what happened in reality.
Mr. Grace, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me? And then they keep, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So
Yes,
people
carry
have
on.
now understood what happened there and how we got here. And they keep saying they lied to everybody's like they lied to us, they lied to us. And I'm thinking, how did you not see the lie from the beginning? But anyway, I suppose people are now on social media more than ever. And then forming each other. So everybody's like, they lied to us. This is what happens. This is what happened. And there's one guy that came out also from the same party that the man who was killed came from. He was being interviewed. Was it last week or this week? And he then says, "Oh, I need to explain this." When Chidima is the guy who died, when Chidima, before he died, he was trying to get back to the previous party. He tried to speak to the leader, but the leader gave him conditions to say, I'm only going to meet with you if you do A, B, and C. But then he knew that if he did A, B, and C, he will expose himself and something obviously bad will happen to him, which happened anyway. So I suspect the other people knew what he was doing with the other guy. And maybe that's how things happened the way they did. But anyway, so it happened that he wanted to go back, to go and apologize and get back. Obviously, the same thing about he got things wrong, or I don't know. So now they're all going back to where they came from to then form this unity, whatever terms they use, so that when the elections come next year, the previous government comes back into power, because they're now all apologizing to the previous guy. We got it wrong, we're sorry, people are singing songs, whatever. So we don't know where everything is going to end up, whether these unions will work, or whether, because we've still got a year to go, anything can happen, they can all fall out. And so STRIFE will change things, and it is changing things in Malawi to verify. It's just that the world is not catching up with what's going on, because everything is in our language, nothing is done in English. So people don't quite know what's going on, but a lot is happening every day.
Thank you very much, Sister Grace. So, from what I can hear, from what you're saying, is that the strife is a continuous. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and I keep thinking
the seesaw.
Yeah, and I keep thinking that whatever happened with this guy leaving the other guy, joining the other side, then whatever happened to him, good or bad, whatever happened needed to happen for people to then understand exactly what goes underground and what goes on with these people, and that for things to change.
Right. Thank you very much, Sister Grace, for sharing with us the strife in reality. So Sister Grace was referencing Malawi, for those who don't know, and how there's been so much instability, and that we might be reading the strife on our screen, but actually it's real in some of the African countries. It's really very, very real. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Brother Sadiki. Brother Sadiki, where are you joining us from? This is the first time I am seeing your name. Welcome, welcome. You're welcome to join us. Brother Sadiki. So what we do, those of us who have joined us for the first time, we read and then we share our thinking. And we have read the highlighted section of the book that is displayed on your screen, and we're sharing our thinking.
Okay.
And we share our thinking on a philosophical basis to our countries and whatever. So thank you very much. Brother Sadiki. Sadiki, yes. Are you there? Brother Pigeon.
Yes.
Please speak with Brother Sadiki at the background. We need to know who he
Yeah,
is.
Brother Sadiki.
And
Brother
he's
Sadiki is
welcome.
joining from Kenya.
From Kenya, right. Is he able to speak?
Yeah, but he has been here sometimes back. Maybe I'll check whether he's able to speak. We've been meeting with him in some Pan-African aspect in Kenya here.
Okay.
So we're doing a lot of some things on the ground here. He's from the Gavest movement. Yeah. So let me check with him. You can proceed, Brother Kwame. Hello, Brother Kwame? Okay. Brother Sadiki, once again, if you're able to speak, please unmute yourself. If you're not able, I'll have to move to the next person in my list. I know Brother Elder Glero said that he may not be able to share something for now, but Elder Glero, feel free to come in anytime. I'll go to, there's a new comrade who has joined us, Atipoe. Can you introduce yourself and maybe let us know where you're joining us from? Comrade Atipoe?
Yes, good evening, all of you.
Good evening, comrade.
I am happy to join you for the very first time. I am just a freelance, reading a few of Kwame Nkrumah's books, and I tumbled over this very one, Conscientism, which proved rather very difficult for me to comprehend.
Yeah, they always say that. Everybody says that. It's not really hard. Anyway, go on. Yes, go on.
So I complained to my colleague who said, well, there is a study group which looks at conscientism. And I thought to myself, wow, okay, I better go and learn. So I'm here as a student, appreciating Nkrumah's historical journey to where this very difficult book is. I got the book from a minister, a government official who loaned it to me. And I complained to a colleague who then told me about this group. So I'm just here to learn. This is my very first time. My Thursday evenings have always been engaged elsewhere. Somehow this evening I was free and I saw it pop up. I said, wow, this is the opportunity. So I'm here as a student.
Yeah, well, welcome. So the one speaking is Atipo, is that correct?
Atipo is the name, Jose Atipo.
Atipo, Jose.
Sounds
like
Ghana.
Sounds like you're from my part of Ghana. Jose Atipo.
I should think so, Mr. Goja, yes.
Okay, thank you. Just so you know, Mr. Atipo, just so you know, we all here are students. Yeah, we're all students. Nobody here is a master. We're all students. We're also all teachers. So when we read, we all share our thinking. We have the only difference is that I have read it more than other people, so I'm able to share more. That's all the difference. But more importantly, we also have a physicist in our midst. He's called Brother Carrington. So he is our resident physicist. And so he comes in when there is a disagreement, physical theory. And then what he says is final because he's a physicist.
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
So the reason
No.
is the reason there's a lot of physics.
The reason that there's a lot of physics in consensusism is because in science, in materialism and in science, and it starts from astronomy, which is the nature of the universe. And a lot of people come to politics and come to African issues with the mindset of society. They start from society, and because they start from society, when they are reading consensusism, they have a lot of difficulty. Starting point for consensusism. The starting point is the universe and what it is made of. You know, what kind of universe do we have, and what is it made from, or what is its nature, what is its origin? And those are very difficult questions in themselves. So when people start reading, they are kind of lost. They don't know, what am I reading? What does it mean? And so on. So to summarize, you're in the right place. The other thing I would say is that the reason consensus okay, thank you. Now, consensusism is hard, and its hardness, its difficulty, is to bring home to us what it means, what it will mean if we are going to take on the imperialists, the colonialists, and the neo-colonialists to win and govern Africa as a united, a liberated, and developed society. If we are finding the thinking itself hard, we can imagine what it's like to actually run a country if the thinking alone is giving us a lot of problems. Then we can see how in Ghana, for instance, whether it is the Rawlings government, the NDC government, the NPP government, up to now they have failed to turn Ghana around. Not to mention Africa. And they thought it was easy, and now they can all see that it is hard to sit in the presidency and not be corrupt. To sit in the presidency and not steal money is so hard. So when Nkrumah did it, they thought it was easy. Anyway, so yeah, so thank you. So yeah, it's a lot of thinking is involved. So consensusism it introduces us to the mindset that we need if we are going to take on the problems of Africa and overcome them. And even when you overcome them, that's not the end. We are learning from the paragraph on the screen that it's actually a situation of strife. Sister Chizomo has shared with us how Malawi is in constant strife, you know, and so on. So anyway, so we are sharing our
just as Ghana, my country is.
Yes. Mr. Tipo, the West African Governance Institute, I think it's called, they are predicting that there's going to be violence in the coming election in December. That's what they are saying. So
yeah.
They are saying there's going to be violence, and some of us can see why, because the NPP are determined to hold on to power, and so yeah. So the strife is not going away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Like you said a while ago, that the judiciary, the lawmakers and the executive play as they go along, and when a strife occurs, it is the judiciary which is supposed to be the umpire and settle out the differences. But here we are, the interpreter is being compromised to the extent that they can become a complete walkover. So it seems that the strife is going to continue with us for a while until we realize that we are one and the same and one evil affects the other as much as it is done by one, you know. So for me, it is about focusing and realizing that, again, as you said, it should all come to one stomach, even though there are two mouths. If you hurt one, you hurt yourself. My stance. Thank you.
Yes, that's very, very philosophical. And that is the kind of philosophy Nkrumah encourages us to use when we are looking at society. That dialectical perspective. So you are already, you said you found the book difficult, but you're already there. Sister Ida, have you spoken already?
Yeah, Brother
Sister Ida, have
Kwame?
you spoken already?
I did.
Yes.
I did.
I'm trying to work out who hasn't spoken. Yes, Brother Pigeon.
In the pending list, we still have Brother Coco.
Brother
Oh,
Coco. I called
recently.
him, but he didn't respond.
Yeah, Brother Coco.
Brother Deki hasn't spoken. Yeah.
And Brother
Yeah.
Sadiki, once again, if you can. And Brother The King has joined also.
Okay. I know Brother Gnora said he was reading, so I'll come
So
to
we
you
have
later.
Brother The King, Brother Coco, and Brother Sadiki. But Brother Sadiki, I don't know if he's able.
Okay. Sister Marlin, are you able to let's hear a woman, and then we go to a man. So Sister Marlin, are you able to speak? Are you able to share? Or should I come back to you later?
Come back to me later.
Come back to you later. Okay. In that case, Brother Coco, can you share your thinking, please?
Good evening, revolutionaries.
Good evening. I like that picture of yours, Brother Coco. Is that an Indian?
Yes. No, they are also brothers in struggle.
With
we
feather,
have all
with a feathered hat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is that the hat for Lesotho? Or yeah, okay.
I
Yes,
know.
Brother Coco, carry on. Thank you.
Yes. This is a continuation from the discussion we had last week. But it is important because we keep coming back to the same situation. Independence was largely our revolutionary fathers taking back control, or seemingly taking back control from the colonizer. And then early on in the 60s, then there were counter-revolutionary coups in Africa, in which the colonizer started asserting his control or his influence in Africa through his puppets, or the elites that he continues to use today to rule most of Africa. And Ghana wasn't an exception. As we know, in 66, Dr. Nkrumah was overthrown, and a counter-revolutionary government was put in place instead of him. And I think the wheel of revolution in Africa sort of nearly came off because of that. He was a force to be reckoned with. We still miss him, but at least he left lots and lots of tracks on the sand for us to follow. But we are encouraged to see the empire, the emperors in the Alliance of Sahel emulating what Dr. Nkrumah did by expelling the colonialists, getting rid of what the French represented in colonizing them and in ongoing colonization of Africa. Whereas other countries, they continue to be under French influence, under British influence, and under the American influence. So this is an ongoing story. There are those who want to fight for the people, but there are some of those who are fighting for their bellies. And it goes back to the book where Dr. Nkrumah elaborated the three kinds of students: the conservatives, the liberals, as well as the progressive Pan-Africans. That happens. Those other two, they are there for either themselves or those around them. And there is that elitism, which is being used by the outsider to control Africa. Let's not forget, Africa is the richest continent in the world. And Africa has been used to build all the other continents, more especially Europe and America. And funny enough, we spoke about this before. We were told that we were given independence, but we were never dependent on them. They were dependent on us directly. And then we took back our sovereignty, or we thought we did, but actually they are now indirectly dependent on us. So again, they are teaching us that we were dependent. We were never dependent on them. We were never. Again, they taught us that we were savages. We didn't know anything. Whereas lots and lots of stuff came out of Africa. Governance itself came out of Africa. So at the moment, the African is learning slowly. The Kenyan woke up and is fighting back for sovereignty for Kenya. He's asking, I want my sovereignty back. I want accountability for my government because I put you up there to do what is best for me, to deliver my interests. And the Nigerian one day will wake up as well and come together as one. We saw what happened in South Africa, unfortunately. 1994 came, promised so much. We thought, now we are back. But ANC did not deliver for the people. But again, let's not just blame the ANC. It has been set up to fail. It has been set up to fail, and it has happened as the counter-revolutionaries had planned. And the power is now back with the colonialist, which is the DA. And the ANC is not working with the new party, MK, is not working with EFF, who are really Pan-African. Unfortunately, our old party, PAC, which has lost lots of power, lots of members, I don't know if Ndatemutau is online tonight, has sort of joined the ANC and given the ANC a bit of credibility, but the strife is real. The strife continues. It's not just between the different branches of government, it's between the different schools of thought, and it's between the people who owns the sovereignty and accountability and those we elect as the people to do our mandate. Many thanks.
Brother Kwame. Brother Kwame?
Yes, Brother Coco. Yes, yes, Pigeon.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a follow-up question as you react to Brother Coco's maybe presentation.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him a question. Is it to Coco?
To you and Coco.
Okay,
to
yeah,
you
go
and
on.
Coco.
Yeah, you go on.
Yeah,
But can you hold on, Pigeon? Hold your thinking for a moment. Let me ask Coco a question, and then you can come in after that. Coco. So they highlighted what we read today, which we've read, and our brother from Ghana, Jose, has also contributed. He's shown that he knew more than he thought he knew. Now, what we are reading.
Brother Kwame, you are lost.
Have we lost Brother Christian?
Brother Kwame, we are losing you.
Go ahead, Brother
Okay,
Pigeon.
I think he's having some network issues. Brother Kwame, you work on your network issues a bit, please. We are losing you.
Brother Pigeon, why don't you ask your question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question here, and I think also Brother Carrington will have to answer this. If STRIFE,
hello, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yes,
okay.
You're back.
So I don't know if you got my question. My question was, what is this paragraph? What is it telling us today?
No,
as far as
can
you
I do a
understand. Yeah, go on.
Because my question is in line with that.
Yeah, go on.
If an attunement can be achieved out of a strife, can that attunement be true? Because these are out of opposite forces. So there's a revolutionary force and a counter-revolutionary force, like example that is being said in South Africa and the rest. Now, when you arrive at a compromise, which is now harmony, can that harmony guarantee an originality of revolution, or is a compromise revolution?
Brother Fijin, the question you are asking has a slightly different answer. And let me answer that, because you are putting that question to that answer. I would have liked Brother Carrington to come in, but let me answer it this way. Let us be clear that those who believe that all human beings are equal, and those who believe that all human beings are unequal, can never agree.
Repeat that part again.
So let's be clear on that. It can also mean, yeah, sorry. I'm saying that those who believe that all human beings are fundamentally equal and come from the same matter, as opposed to those who believe that human beings are unequal, and therefore they will always therefore human beings can never be equal. There will always be a hierarchy. These two perspectives can never agree. It's like negative and positive. Even though they exist in the same nature, they can never agree. So let us be clear. We are not saying that negative will cease to be negative and positive forces will cease to be positive. That is not what we are saying. We are saying that it's possible for the two of them to live in peace. They can live in peace given the situation. But even when they're living in peace, there is still agitation from one side or the other. That is what we are saying. So we are not saying that those who believe they must steal Africa's money will disappear tomorrow. We're not saying that. We're not saying that mosquitoes will stop drinking blood suddenly tomorrow. We're not saying that. Because it is in their nature. It is in their nature to suck human blood in order for them to procreate. That is their nature. And you cannot stop it, because that is their nature. It is in the structure of things. You can't get rid of protons in an atom. If you do, you cause nuclear fission. Brother Carrington, bring some physics here to help us.
No.
Sorry?
Yeah, bring some physics to help us.
As bring the physics, Brother Carrington.
Yes.
Allow me to put it. It says proton and neutrons, but here is a division within the protons.
Sorry,
so there are two forces,
and electrons.
And neutron.
Sorry, protons and electrons. Sorry, protons and electrons.
Okay, protons and electrons. So here there's an attunement that is tried to be achieved between protons and neutrons, and it appears on neutrals, and it seems that from Brother Kwame that there can never be an agreement of the same. Now, what about a division within the protons?
Hold on. Even when they agree, like in the atom, it doesn't mean they cease to exist as independent elements within the atom.
Brother Kwame, what does that push forward to the unity of Africa as a one continental government?
Okay, you hold on. Let Brother Carrington come in, and then we'll address that.
Okay,
Brother Carrington, bring in some.
So I'm going to disappoint everyone by not bringing. Sorry, I'm going to disappoint everyone, but by not bringing physics, but a bit of music.
Okay, that's good. That is physics as well. Come on.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's called acoustics.
Acoustics, yes.
Yeah, go on,
okay,
brother.
Fair. Attunement could also mean tuning out some frequencies to create harmony. That some frequencies operating in society could be slowly de-amplified such that some other dominant frequencies rise. And this is what you call essentially a revolution. Brother Pigeon, your question, the question that you're asking is the question that has dogged Pan-Africanist political revolutionaries even all over the world. The question of revolution or reform. Which change is valid? Which change is stable? Which form of change is helpful? So even within protons in a nucleus, the distribution of energy is not exactly the same. That's why the nucleus, not just the atom, but the nucleus is also in a permanent state of vibration, because the distribution of energy is not the same in the nucleus. So the story of the animal farm applies even to atomic and nuclear physics, that all are created equal, but some more equal than others. And this jiggling, the more violently a proton moves, the more energy it wastes, it distributes to its neighbors, and the more energy it loses. Use that how you may to apply to society. Thank you, because we are saving time.
Thank you. The time is 7 minutes to 9, so we're almost at the end of today's session. We were here early, brother Pigeon and I. We opened the doors very early, so because we realized that 2 hours can go very quickly, so we need to open the doors as quickly as possible so people can come in, and brothers and sisters can come in and share their thinking. Brother Coco, you wanted to come in. Yeah, so come in and then we will try and wrap things up. Thank you. Brother Guerrero has his hand up as well. Yes, Coco.
Yes.
You are still, yeah, your mic is still unmuted. Yes. You want to
Thank
share
you.
final
Yeah,
comments? Yeah.
I have allowed you to interject and help with PG's question, which is helpful. And thank you, Brother Carrington, for alluding to reform versus revolution, because that is how they either sell you short or long. So if you get the revolution, you get what you want and you work towards what you want. But with a reform, everybody sort of, there's a compromise here and there. So with regards to your question, Brother Kwame, we are in a situation where we got bequeathed with a colonial education. And as long as that colonial education continues, we'll continue serving the foreign master. And that's where the African underneath, the African himself, the environment under which he lives, in which he wants to use his materials to further himself, to further his people, to further his community, there will be that conflict. There will be that strife. And the attenuation is only when the existing foreign domination is ameliorated or reformed in a way to get towards what the African needs or what the African should get to progress himself and his surroundings. I hope that helps.
It helps. Okay, so thank you. So I was trying to get to us to understand that in this paragraph, Nkrumah is telling us, Nkrumah is sharing with us that if you are going to transform Africa, look at your concrete situation, the philosophy that you need, the content of your philosophy must come from a concrete environment. It shouldn't come from the sky. Look at your surrounding, look at where you are living. That is the source of the content of your philosophy. And so Nkrumah is drawing our attention to the fact that, like Heraclitus, we must also look to our environment for the content of our philosophy and ideology. Thank you. Brother Glenroy.
Yes, thank you. I put my hand up to remind people about the RMT Reparation Conference. If you're in London, obviously, you have the option of possibly going to it physically, but also it's available on Zoom. But just to
But
chip
before that,
into the
are you
conversation.
going to share the Zoom link with us later and the WhatsApp? Yeah.
I'm not sure I can. I'm sure there's a technological way, but I'll send it
Okay.
to yourself and Pigeon,
Brother
and then
Pigeon.
you can
Okay, and then we
forward
can
it or
share. All
whatever.
right.
But yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make a
Thank you,
small
Carrington.
contribution. Of course, we're suffering from all the ills that we've mentioned: colonialism, enslavement, etc., etc. But African had an existence before all of this. So, along with looking at our resource and looking at what we can do, we should also look at our history and recognize that, there's so many scientific examination that really would tell us where our people would be or would have been without the interruption of enslavement and colonialism. So I sometimes wonder if we're not developing our own thinking in regard to um, where we should have been. We have to acknowledge the interference. We have to acknowledge the interruption in the global African's trajectory. But, whilst I'm not suggesting we go and start again, where would we have been without the interruption? I think is an important analogy that I hope we can somehow discuss at some point. In
But
preparation.
How do you see that feeding into the discussion that we're having today?
Well,
Where we where
when
we might have been, because we are not there, but we might have been there. So how do you see that helping us?
Well, I think what's been said here in regard to the mind of Heracles is the idea that there are times that you will come across a situation that can redefine where your idea and trajectory will go. So what I'm saying is we should be prepared to school ourselves, not just to think of we can't forget it, and we shouldn't forget it, because an important part, the interference by outside forces, but also recognize that with all the problems that may have existed among ourselves, we would have been somewhere better. Now, I don't gonna. As always,
yeah.
I interject very late, and then we run out of time. So I'm not going to do that to you again. Just simply to say, let me give it some more thought, and I'll try to come back
And it's fine.
with
Well,
a
it's
more
fine.
defined. Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. But can I ask? So some people argue that when you look at Ghana today, and you look at the state of Ghana today, one can cry. But when one looks at Malaysia and how Malaysia has developed physically, I mean, that if Ghana had been allowed to develop without the interference, when you see Malaysia and its development, that is how Ghana would have been, in the sense that Malaysia took our development plan, which we developed in Ghana. Those days it was new. Arthur Lewis came to Ghana, was part of it. We developed this 7-year development plan. World economy said, yeah, it's fine. We started implementing it, and then the colonialists, imperialists came and said, no, we can't let this happen, and they destroyed it. So listening to you, what I am thinking is that what you are telling us is that when we are looking at the current situation, we must also look at what might have been, or where we would have been if these things don't take place, and factor that into our thinking. Yeah, is that it?
yes, exactly, my brother. Because you see, what we say about reparation is just about some sort of financial involvement with the key part of it, but it's not just that. It's about we must put ourselves back where we would have been. And there are critical thinkers among us who can work out that trajectory. As you said, there are economic plans, not only in modern times, but things that we were doing during the time of the interruption. So we must recognize that. One of the things I'm always fascinated about, and continue to do what research I can, is the relationship of the royal kings and queens on the continent, what their roles were and how they assisted and rejected both colonialism and enslavement. What were their roles? Were they sitting by? Was there this class difference about their participation in the struggle, etc., etc.? And is that continued through generations of so-called, let's call them the ruling class, for want of a better term? I don't like that term because accept anybody ruling, but you know what I mean. What are their roles? So these should be part of our trajectory. And what is it that they're doing now? And again, my apologies to the meeting that I'm raising these things at the very last minute.
No, it's
but
fine.
I've been listening,
It's
and
fine.
Coco's last intervention particularly I found interesting.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Brother Glenroy will be our last speaker. If you haven't spoken, please forgive us. You'll speak next week. Brother Pigeon, announcements and what we are doing on Saturday, and then let's bring the meeting to a close. It's 3 minutes past 9. Apologies for the 3 minutes delay.
Okay. Thank you very much to all of you who have joined us. Of course, I haven't shared the recording for last week, and I'll be sharing tomorrow in the morning for those who missed the last week's session. We will be looking at the African Free Continental Trade Agreement this Saturday on the angle of economic unification of the continent. Remember, our Saturday is always about the unification, liberation, and development of Africa. And we'll be looking at how can we are we moving towards the unification economically with the incoming African Free Continental Trade Agreement. We'll be having a guest speaker, and this will be fitting part of what economic challenges we are having as a continent, because when you talk of the unification of Africa, is in both aspects. We are looking political and economics and social aspect. So we will be having a conversation about the economics and what do we need to do to ensure that we are economically unified as a continent. We will be continuing from where we will.
Brother Pigeon, can I come in there before you continue? So,
yes,
brothers and sisters, please do not come to listen to a presentation. That should not be your mind. Your mind should be you come to be part of the conversation. Please do not come with the mind that I'm coming to listen to a presentation. No, you are coming to be part of a conversation, and your what you think is just as important as any presenter when we invite them. Thank you. Carry on, brother.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame, for that. As always, we are thought and action. So everything we do is share your thinking, listen to what's being said, but share your thinking in regards to that, so that we can move together into action. Just the same way we do our reading. Even those part of the what we study or listen to are part of news, and where you should think and share your thinking. Next Thursday we'll continue from where we left it here. And I see there's been struggle between nominalism and constructionism, whether we want to see attunement or we want to remain in nominalism state. So thank you very much. And have a lovely evening to you all.
Good night. Take care.
Thank you. Today was fun. 15 of us. Wonderful. Thank you all. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Sister Ida.
Good night.
Good night, sir. Good night.